Hey guys, it's Rand from Prairie Pioneer Schoolhouse. I want to do a video today that's kind of different than most of my videos. If you've been with me for a while, you know that my channel is mostly about homeschooling and homemaking and just life as a wife and a mother and being a Christian, a Catholic woman, and all of that, which is all good stuff. But as you know from the title, you're probably like, what? I think that this video, which by the way, I feel super convicted about, just kind of like came to me the other day, is a big part of this walk as a homemaking homeschool mama. And honestly, any walk that you're walking, this is a big deal. But again, like on this channel, I will not really try to quote unquote help you solve your problems because I have found personally that the most times, or like the times that I've been helped the most, is when people just kind of share their humanity. And I can really see how they have worked through things in their life and their humanness, if that's a word. So I'm just really gonna share my walk on this video today. But like the title says, you know, if you hate the person you once were. I think this can be kind of a hard subject to tackle because especially if you're a Christian or even like, I don't know, I don't read a lot of self-help books. I used to when I was younger. But a lot of stuff that I've read is like, have you forgiven yourself? Or people say this too, have you forgiven yourself? You gotta love yourself. Have you forgiven other people? Have you made peace with your past? And like, I have gotten so annoyed with those things that I have heard. And I'm not saying they're wrong at all. But I think what annoyed me so much was that they were not what I needed. So the first thing I'm going to talk about in this video is having self-knowledge. I remember when I was really struggling years ago, trying to figure out what the heck was wrong with me and why I couldn't function normally. I read something that Mother Teresa wrote, and she wrote about how like self-knowledge is really important. And I think many saints wrote about that, but I remember I read that from her. And that was the first time that I felt like, oh, I can spend some time on figuring out who the heck I am and why I tick, you know? So when I started to learn more about myself, I started to realize a lot. The first thing I really did in that area was learn about the temperaments. There's a book called The Temperament God Gave You. And when I was really young, I was super into horoscope. Like I believed it so much to the point that I would make life decisions based on what the horoscope would say about whatever. I mean, like I was really into it. And I have one tattoo on my right side, up on my back up here. And I remember I wanted a Pisces sign and the tattoo artist was like, oh, it's gonna be too busy. We should probably leave that off. And I am so thankful for that. But anyway, so I don't wanna spend too much time on that. But anyway, so I had some major issues, mostly because I didn't really learn, which I think a lot of people have this issue. I was watching a video the other day of a woman and people in the comments kept saying, you're really impulsive with your decision making. And I was like, a lot of people are like that. A lot of people are really impulsive in their decision making. But when I was younger, and even I'm a lot like this now, but I've learned to kind of temper myself a bit. But I didn't know how to make decisions. Like I never was like, oh, here are the steps of decision making. I never really did that. It was more like, this is in front of me and I have to choose this or that about everything. I didn't really understand the process of being like, oh, there are two choices in front of me and I don't have to choose either one of them. I can just step back and wait. That was probably one of the biggest things was I just never really knew how to process decision making, which honestly, I think it's like a big deal for humans. We have a hard time with that. Not everybody, but some people. Another thing that I wouldn't say I was so much a people pleaser, but I had a really deep like interest in people. Like I just thought people were really interesting. I didn't really understand why I felt this way. I think I was naturally just more inclined to be interested in people, but also because of the religion that I grew up in, we were taught, I know I've talked a lot about this, and it's not a lot, but a couple times on this channel, that we were taught, I was raised in the Christian Science belief, I guess, faith. And the biggest thing was, it was kind of like you're somewhere else and everyone's kind of having this collective dream here. and the world is an illusion, and that there are no five senses. This isn't reality, and we don't have bodies. That's an illusion. So I had and I really believed it. That's another part of self-knowledge. I'm extremely gullible to the point where I would just believe whatever people told me. I didn't really learn how to question things on my own. Like, I could mimic other people questioning, like, oh, they're questioning, so I should too. Maybe not mimic, but like act like I'm questioning. But like internally, I never really learned how to question things well until I was probably well into my mid-20s. But anyway, so because of my kind of worldview or non-worldview, I think I was extremely interested in the human person because I didn't really understand the human person. But I didn't understand that I didn't understand it. You know what I mean? So I had a lot of these like little things that adding up all together made for a person who really didn't know how to make decisions well, who was confused about the world around her, and was extremely interested in people. That's one of the reasons I almost went to fashion, because it wasn't so much about the clothes. It was because I was so interested in how people choose what to think is fashionable, and how, you know, fashion can rise up and, oh, it's so, and then all of a sudden it's not here anymore, and then it rises, oh, and I always thought that was just so fascinating that people could be like that, you know? But anyway, so that's a little off topic, but I'm just trying to share with you guys kind of my walk in figuring out, you know, who I was and how I would have come to make choices in my life and look around at the world, how I would go about feeling about myself because of my worldview, and so on and so forth. So, and also, like, on top of all of that, I'm just nutty. Like, I'm a goofy person, and I have the level of joy inside of me. It's like insurmountable. It's like a lot. And so I just like everything. Like, I look around. I remember when I was younger looking around and feeling like I could see like musical notes or like colors in the sky, like just feeling like there was just like, not literally, but like everything was, you know, making music, and everything had this joy about it. And I felt like I was part of it. That's a really hard, weird thing to explain. But anyway, so basically the first thing in this is just that self-knowledge is so important to understanding why you were the way you were in your past. A second part of this, I would say, are the people around you. One thing that would make me so mad would be when I was really struggling with this years ago, and people would be like, well, if people around you aren't like supportive or whatever, you need to just let them go. And I'm like, you know, there are some relationships that you can't just let go. Like, sometimes there really are. But like, let's say like you're living with whoever, like, let's say you're living with a roommate, okay, and you guys have a lease together, let's just say, and they keep bringing up your past. Or let's say you're trying to quit like partying or something, and you're really trying to make a change in your life, and your friend is going out and partying all the time and is always inviting you, and you're like, I've told you already that I'm not going anymore. And at first they're respectful, okay, it's this thing you're doing, but after a while it starts to really get under their skin, and then they start to say stuff like, what, do you think that you're better than me? And you're like, what? No. And then they start going even farther than that. Oh, and they bring pictures or something of like your past. I know this is kind of like a wild example, but I'm just trying to think of something that would be a situation someone could be in. I remember Kristalina Everett, she's a speaker on chastity, and she talked about how when she was really trying to not, you know, be promiscuous anymore, all of her friends would do exactly what I just said. She wasn't living with them, but she went to school with them. She saw them, and they would remind her of what she used to do, and they would make her feel like, you know, what she was doing was a waste of time. And so there are sometimes situations where you can't just walk away from other people, or sometimes you're married to somebody who is going to remind you of your past sins or failures, not even sins maybe, just like what you've done wrong in the past, and not let up. Like, they just keep reminding you, or maybe you really hurt them. And like it's, you know, it's funny because like you will read these things about, you know, someone having, you know, an affair. And okay, I'm not trying to say that's okay at all, but I'm just saying, like, let's say someone did that, and then, you know, both people choose to stay together. the one person that has had the affair and the person that hasn't, this person is probably really, really hurt by this affair, really hurt. And probably over the years, it's gonna come up over and over and over again. And it's gonna have to heal. And it's like, it's gonna be hard. And everyone always feels for the person that has been hurt. But the person that has done the wrong also is a human being, you know, and they're gonna have to, you know, have to work through this over and over and over. So it's like, or let's say you're a teen and you live with parents and they're not healthy, you know, and they're like reminding you of like things you did when you were so little and you were a kid, you know, but they're just like, oh. Like I remember I heard a story once where a woman, every day on the woman's birthday, her mother would tell her how horrible the birth was and how it just ruined the mother's life and how she was in so much pain. And so every time the woman would come up to her birthday, it was like this miserable thing because her mother would go on and on and on. So it's like, I'm giving you all these different examples as like sometimes in life you can't walk away from a situation. I mean, maybe you can like really work on your emotions and you can really work on boundaries and things like that. But sometimes I just wish people weren't so quick to say you can just walk away from relationships, because sometimes you can't. And sometimes you can. Sometimes, like, let's say you're married and it's definitely an invalid marriage and you end up, you know, let's say you're Catholic and you end up getting divorced and you get an annulment and you can get away from that person and you don't have to deal with their issues with boundaries and all that pain and stuff. But you still are going to have issues from the years that you dealt with that. It's not just gonna go away. So for me, I'm not gonna get too involved in my personal issues, but I am gonna say that I have had relationships in my life that I could not walk away from, that I had to work on, or situations where I was around people. Like when I was in, like, this one's okay to share, but when I was in school, I was bullied horribly. And I know I've shared that before too. I also was treated really badly for things that I had done. And I was really, really young when, you know, I was involved in certain things. And I was just treated horribly. Like I look back now and I'm like, whenever I hear someone like, oh, bullying is just part of life, I feel like that is total crap. Like that is total crap. When do you grow up as an adult and you're in a situation of being bullied as an adult? Oh, sorry, my head cover, it's like this long one and it kept sliding and I can't go get another one because if I go inside, the kids are gonna be all over me and they're playing really nicely. So you're just gonna have to deal with my hair being crazy this morning. Anyway, it's not so bad. But anyway, so like, I'm just like so against bullying or like thinking that that is okay for kids, because it's not. First of all, when you're young, you're like becoming who you are. You're figuring out who you are and you're working through all of these different things. And having people there saying horrible things about you and treating you like dirt, and all the adults around you are like, well, you know, it's just a part of life. You won't know these people in a couple years. Like if I worked at a business or a company, let's say, and I was treated like that constantly, and I went to my boss and they were like, well, it's just a part of the workplace and you won't know these people in a couple years when you move up to the next step, I'd be like, I'm going to sue you. No, but I'm just saying, like, that is insane. And so I just feel like, what are we telling our youth if we're like constantly telling them, this is just normal, this, and I know you're probably thinking like, how are we gonna deal with this? Okay. I can't get off topic too much. But so the first thing was about self-knowledge. The second thing that helped me was self-knowledge. The second thing was realizing that there were certain relationships that I had in my life that I couldn't just walk away from, and that they were going to be present in my life. And so I had to go, this is like gonna bring on the next point, and that is accepting responsibility for what you've done. So this can be a hard one because as human beings, we really have a narrative in our mind about how things go. And we have a desire to protect ourselves. And so sometimes we maybe don't create the narrative, but we kind of work the narrative to work in our favor. And if everyone in a room is doing that, and somehow it's always someone else's fault, then we're not really ever gonna get better, you know? Because it's like it's always someone else's fault. And like as a sanguine, that's a big one, because sanguines not love, but they really what's that word? They tend to blame other people because it's almost like unbearable for them to think it was their fault because they're so happy and they're so joyful and they love people and they're like, I would never hurt someone, so it's gotta be someone else's fault. And so I went through that big time in my 20s. I wrote letters to people letting them know that I forgave them. I look back now, I sent one to my mom and my dad about I really forgave them for the things that they had done. And which, I mean, not that they had done, but just, like things that you think about, like little things. And later on, when I got older, I apologized to them for sending them letters. I thought I was doing this really great thing by letting them know I forgave them. But I didn't really cross my mind to realize, what did you do, Rhiannon? And so, but that was a process I had to go through. And thankfully, they were pretty kind and understanding in that situation. I also had to work on really forgiving people in my life personally, friends and, things like with my spouse, just things. And then I had to learn, this is a hard one, guys. If you're a big people person, I had to learn to let go of relationships that were not relationships that were built on two people. So I tended to hold on to relationships. I would contact people from the past, like old friends, and try to keep these relationships going. And after a while, I realized that, it's fine if you want to be kind with someone and you want to be friendly, but I had to learn that I couldn't force friendships and I couldn't make friendships happen if both parties were not interested in that friendship. And that, I literally wanted to cry when I realized that because that made me so sad. I did kind of keep acquaintances and be kind, but I had to just let go of that part of me that just wanted to just love everybody and just everyone to be friends and the whole world to be rainbows and unicorns. I had to kind of let that go, not completely, but just enough to be helpful to my sanity and have self-care in that way. So alongside learning to accept my accountability and responsibility for the things that I've done in my past, the things that maybe I'm trying to think of how to say it. Because remember, everything in your past, I'm not just talking about sin or bad things. I'm also just talking about awkward, sometimes I'll remember these really awkward situations and I'll just be embarrassed or what was I thinking? Just all kinds of things that would add up to just make me be I was so weird and frustrating and why was I so like this? And then there were other things that were wrong and sinful behaviors that I had to take responsibility for and I couldn't blame other people for them. And that can be really, really hard. Maybe not. Maybe all of a sudden you're just infused with this amazing grace and you're you can totally accept the responsibility right there. But you know what's going to happen if number 2 comes back up, meaning number 1, self-knowledge, number 2, other people that you might have harmed or maybe that don't have good boundaries with you. If you're trying to accept responsibility, you've all this grace and you've accepted it, but then every couple of months someone brings something up and you're and it can feel like you just got hit by 2x4 because you felt like you apologized for something. You have made amends. You have changed your life. And now a person is bringing up something from the past like you did it right now and they're hurting, and it's it can feel horrible. But I've had to learn too that I've had to really work on putting myself in other people's shoes, try to see what it's like from their perspective, and really try to separate myself from this. Because honestly, if I'm speaking to you right now, whoever you are, and you're yes, I've totally made amends and I've changed my life and these people in my life, or maybe you grew up, because I grew up in a time where there wasn't Facebook yet and there wasn't images all over the place. So there is no a lot of my past history all over the place. So I remember someone saying they were having a lot of pain with memories popping on my Facebook because they went through a hard time, they went through a divorce, they went through and I was gosh, I didn't experience that, having old pictures pop up of painful events in my past. So it might not even be a person, it might just be Facebook memories. It might just be something that, just keeps reminding you of things. And I don't know, that might be silly, but maybe not, and so it's just having to take accountability. But then after that, y'all, somehow, you gotta find I'll just say how I did it, because that's what I like to say. I had to come to a place where I said to myself, okay, let's say it's happening. Let's say someone's doing this. Let's say a Facebook memory comes up. Or let's say you see someone from your past and man, they're living it up, you know, like their life is like something, whatever. And you're like feeling down. I don't know. Try to give examples that would be like, make sense. And, you know, I've had to come to a place in my life where I say, okay, yes, I did those things, or I lived that way, or I was, you know, I did this thing that was really embarrassing, you know, but I am not actively doing any of that right now. And I have to literally have a pep talk to myself. And this might sound stupid to some people, but honestly, this has been the main thing that has helped me. And I have prayed and I've asked for grace, and I have even gotten to the point in my life where I've gotten frustrated with God because I'm like, I'm doing all the work. What are you doing? And I'm like, well, I mean, he died on the cross and he's, you know, worked his self through all salvation history. I mean, you know, but in the moment I'll be like really frustrated, you know? And like, so I've had to learn to tell myself, it's gonna be okay. Now there is the rare time where something happens, something's brought up, something happens, I remember, and I feel just so down. And those are the moments that bring forth the title of this video, when you hate who you once were, because you just feel like, what was I thinking? Or like, how? And then I have to stop and I have to think about these steps. Okay, who was I then? And have that self-knowledge. Why did I make these decisions? You know, what was I thinking? My big thing, my big struggle, and maybe some of you guys, my hair is starting to get frizzy. Maybe you guys can kind of identify with this, maybe not. But my biggest thing was I had a major like thyroid issue, but I also had a lot of depression. And because of how I was, you know, what the religion I was raised in, I was taught there was no such thing, like at church and stuff. So when I became an adult and I would be depressed, I would never ever think like, I'm depressed, or like, this isn't normal, this isn't healthy. I would think, okay, well, what do I need to do to like make myself feel better? You know, oh, maybe I should go, you know, spend tons of money on a credit card and buy all this stuff. That would make me feel wonderful, you know. No, it won't, because now you just have like a ton of money you gotta pay back and all this stuff you don't care about, you know. It's like, and or like if you're like, you know, an addict, you know, and you're suffering. I mean, there are so many things, guys, that we have struggled with in our past, and it is hard. But I guess I'm just here to say that like I've come to a place where I still struggle. Like sometimes it's not as much as I used to, but I still struggle. And I have to go through these steps with myself. Who was I? How did I make decisions? Do I still make decisions that way? No. Do I still think the same way? No. I know I'm depressed now if I'm in a state of depression, or maybe not depression, but just like a low place, or I'm having massive amount of anxiety. No one's gonna break into my house tonight. My kids are safe. Like I have to like talk to myself. Things are okay. Second, who do I surround myself with? If my relationships that I have, like some of them are not relationships that I have made a vow with, or I, you know, can get away from them. So, like, let's say, you know, you can't actually go away and it's fine. Like the whole roommate situation, your lease is up, get on out of there. If it's your parents, you try to put up the best boundaries you can and be loving, but be firm. There's so many things that like you can try. But if you have relationships that you are not bound to, that's the time to say, I don't need this relationship. I can let this go, because it's like, you know, so it's like going through these processes. And then the last, if I'm really struggling, number one, I know who I am. I know who I am now. I know who I was then. The people around me, I have good boundaries. I can express myself well. Then the third thing is accountability. Okay, is this thing that's happening, am I really taking accountability for this in this moment? Or am I still saying, it was this person's fault, this one, or it was the situation, and if it was all the, okay, yes, I've done this. And that's when I usually call upon Jesus and I say, Lord, I know you've forgiven me for this. I've worked through it all the ways I can through my humanness. Again, there's that word. Now I really need you to come in, because this is super hard. And in the end, y'all, sometimes there are things that no matter what you do, are just gonna kind of haunt you. And they're just gonna make you super sad that you ever chose to do that, or ever chose to live that way. And I think when it comes to those things, I've had to just kind of be like, there's nothing I can do. You know, I know who I was. I know the people I was around, I know that I had a really hard time with accountability. And this one thing, I don't know what to do with, And that's where I really believe deep, deep, deep within myself, to the deepest core of myself, that, that the humanness of God, Jesus, that's what I fell in love with him, because he didn't sin, but he did live here. He walked among us. He saw people sinning. He saw the pain that came from it. He saw the sadness. He saw death. He saw all of it from our perspective. And he still chose to love us, and he still chose a woman who many people say was a total like a prostitute and the lowest level of society, and that's who he chose to see, the first person to let him see be resurrected. So I mean, when it comes down to those things where I just can't find peace about, and I just kind of have to hang out with him for a while and be like, man, that sucks. I'm sorry for the language, if that's language, but I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I chose that for myself, for people around me. What the heck was I thinking, And I know that if everyone in the whole entire world left me and everyone thought I was pure crap, let's just say, I know that he's going to sit with me. Even though I can't see him, I know it. I know he's going to stay with me. So that has been one of my biggest walks into Christianity, was knowing that he'll sit with me and like me and love me, even when everyone else thinks I'm just crap, So I don't know if this is helpful to anyone, but I felt super, just really convicted, to the point where I kept shushing it, no one wants to see that video. Sorry, the kids were Beyblading, and my toddler got his little hand hit with Beyblade. Anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here, but just to reiterate, just to go over it again, I guess I could say the 4 steps, but I'm always weary about putting that down, because these 4 steps have taken me 12 years of my life to figure out. But the first one is definitely having self-knowledge, understanding where you were at that time, understanding who you are now, and that's a big part, I think. Number 2 is the people in your life and the relationships. Which ones are the ones that you really can't just walk away from, because everyone loves to give that advice, and it really bothers me, because sometimes it's not just an easy walk away fix, of all the situations I gave. And the ones that you can, that you're able to, that aren't this, a relationship that's just not, you don't need to stay around for it. Just, you can let it go. I know it can be hard, especially if, let's say you've been friends with someone for a super long time, but it's just been so unhealthy the whole time. Just slowly start making, steps to let that relationship go. That was kind of, so number 2. And then number 3 was accountability, having to step up. I had to learn that, to step up and own become accountable for the things that I needed to become accountable for, but not for the stuff that you don't. If there's stuff that you are not accountable for and you are not responsible for, you do not need to take that on, sister. That's all I'm saying. You do not need to take that on. If someone harmed you and they harmed you really bad, no matter how much blame they're going to want to put on you, if it is not your fault, it is not your fault. That is not a blame that people need to take. And the last thing, I know that not everybody is Christian watching this, but for me was just really being with Jesus, Yeshua, as the humanness that he also was, not just, he's God and human. And I have had someone come on here that's saying that Jesus wasn't God. This is a Catholic Christian channel, so there are tons of channels out there where people want to debate those things, and this is not one of those channels. So if it's a really not nice comment, I'll probably just delete it, because this is an encouraging place. If you're trying to have a conversation, that's fine, but Jesus is God, so I don't know what else to say about that. But anyway, so him just being there with you when you feel like nobody else is with you. And if you are not Christian and you don't want to become Christian, he still really loves you and wants to hang out with you and be with you and help you. So if you just sit there and you're like, I don't even believe in you, but will you just sit with me because I'm so alone right now? He's gonna sit with you. He's not gonna be like, not until you say certain this or that. He's still gonna be with you, you know, so just let him be with you. So those are just kind of like all the different like kind of stages and steps that I've gone through to really work out my salvation with fear and trembling. I love that scripture verse. But this is more of not just my salvation, obviously. This is just how to live in this world. Because honestly, guys, our mental health is so important. When I'm not feeling right, I call my doctor up. I'm like, you need to check my thyroid. You need to check my levels because I need to make sure. I got people that depend on me. I can't be sitting around wallowing. I can't, you know. And I did a lot of work with Melissa with the Thinking, Feeling, Willing program, where she really helped me with that, especially with the whole like this is my work. This is my work I'm doing. This isn't just like, oh, you know, I'm at home, so who cares what I wear or what I act like whatever. Like, you know what I say? I act like there's always someone there watching. That's how I am with my kids. And when I find myself being like fussy at them, I stop and I apologize for being a crazy person. Because I am not going to be one of those people that are one way behind closed doors and one way out there in society. Because society is not the most important place. The most important place is like right in here inside yourself and the people that you're around. So you want to be an authentic person. At least that's what I've, strive to be. Because I'm so perfect. You're right. Anyway, so I hope this video has been kind of helpful to maybe like one person. I think it's been helpful to me talking about it. But anyway, so I just love you guys so much. I think all of you guys are so sweet. I'm like, I know people say, oh, my subscribers are so sweet, but you guys really are. You're so encouraging. Especially the main certain amount of people that really comment on the videos. Y'all are so kind. And if you're here with me still, this is a long video. So thank you for sticking around. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good day. If you are new to my channel, I'd love for you to subscribe. I don't usually do videos like this, but unless you guys want me to do videos like this, I don't know how much more I can say on the subject, but I could break it down in other ways. But anyway, and please give a thumbs up if you liked it, if you got all the way through it. And I hope you guys have a good day. God bless.